Rev up your engines!
Now, Massachusetts has passed that right to repair bill. Well, now the car makers have gotten lawyers involved and they become actual scumbags. And they said, we can't obey the state's right to repair law because it's illegal. They get a technicality out, right? So executives for GM and Stellantis said, and I quote, "It remains my judgment," says Vice President of GM, "that it is simply impossible to comply with the data access law safely." They're supposed to be able to give all the information, including telematics, to the aftermarket so they or yourself can fix the cars and not have to go to the dealer where everybody knows you're going to get ripped off getting your car repaired at the dealer, especially if they are the only people who have information to fix it. Correct. The Attorney General of Massachusetts says this: "The car makers are deliberately misreading the law to falsely argue that it contradicts federal auto safety regulations and to claim they're obeying the law is technically impractical." They got lawyers involved saying, well, we can't do that because that would be breaking the law by technicality. Here's one example that they give. The law requires the establishment of an independent company to provide car mechanics with access to the data. But the company said no one has created such an entity and claimed it would be illegal for the manufacturers to do so for themselves because it would not be independent. Because they're setting it up, they're saying, well, it's not independent, so we're breaking the law by giving this information out because it's got to be an independent. You can't make us create an independent because if we create it, then it's not independent. It's unbelievable when the lawyers get involved in this stuff. They look for any loophole so they don't have to give this information out so you can get your car repaired at an independent place or even repair it yourself and be able to get the information. And then they say things like cybersecurity, it's a secure thing and all this information, or maybe the Chinese will get it and use it against us. They have more baloney coming out of their mouths just so they don't have to comply with this law of giving information to get your car repaired. They fought it tooth and nail. They actually fought in California and they won. They didn't even vote for it in California because they squashed it when it was in committee by, obviously, the corporations, the car manufacturers giving a ton of money to the politicians. And the interesting thing was the people who voted not to even vote on it to bring it up were both Democratic and Republicans. So, they got their little money-grubbing hands in the back pockets of both sides. It's not one side versus the other. The Democrats who pretend to care about people, well, they get the money in their pocket and then, well, hide that. They'll never find out about this. Nobody knows about these things. The internet doesn't exist, right? Yeah, well, it does. And that's why I'm here to tell everybody about it. Corporations are fighting it with technicalities. Even though they lost in Massachusetts and the bill's there, they refuse to comply to it, saying, well, we be breaking the law because if we got to create an independent thing, it won't be independent. It's unbelievable. If this was a movie plot, people would say, that was a crappy movie. You couldn't believe any of that stuff. It's so made up. No, it's not made up, people. This is real. Carlos Garza says, Scotty, is it safe to drive a car without brake pads? Well, you got to stop somehow. But when I was a kid, we had a two-tone Ford Fairlane, 3-speed V8. First Ford father had went over 100 miles an hour, but it was old. It was like 20 years old. It's all rusted. And the brakes went out 50 miles from the garage, my uncle's farm. So my grandfather drove, and we drove back in his car. He drove that car 50 miles through the country with no brakes and made it back to the garage. Mind you, it was a standard tranny. He'd downshift and slow down the traffic. In those days, wasn't as busy as it is today. But driving a car without brake pads, you'd be insane. You gotta stop somehow. Anybody out there, your brakes are starting to go out. Fix them sooner than later. You don't want to kill yourself, somebody else, because your brakes aren't working right. It's probably the most important safety item in your car. They're not working right, get them fixed. I mean, they're generally not hard to fix. Watch my videos. Change your brake pads. Anybody with hand tools can do that in the jack to take the tire off. It's not hard stuff to do. A lot of garages there will rip you off. I've seen people pay $1,000 for a four-wheel brake job. They could have done it themselves for maybe $100 in parts and a few hours of their time. So, learn how to do it yourself. Paul Lunt says, Scotty, I purchased a 2018 Toyota Highlander Limited with 56,000 kilometers on it. Was it a good purchase and how reliable are they? I had a customer with one of those things. He had 400-something thousand miles, not kilometers. That thing isn't even broken in yet. Those are phenomenal vehicles. They're just phenomenal. They can run and run and run. The hybrid version, generally, they get close to a couple 100,000 miles. Often, that electronic rear end goes out on it. The front is regular gasoline drive, but the rear is electronic. You didn't say it was a hybrid, and the non-hybrid ones, they can basically last forever with normal maintenance. Change the oil every 5,000 miles. Change the coolant to Toyota once every 7 years or 150,000 miles. They last a long time with very little maintenance. Ken Lee says, Scotty, I got a note for a Honda Accord, 195,000 miles. I'm debating on changing the tranny fluid every 15,000. It's a good idea. It's been well maintained. Yeah, it's a great idea because it's a Honda. You take the drain plug, it comes out, and then there's the fill plug. You pour the same amount back in. It's so easy to do. It's even easier than change the oil in your car. It's such a simple job. Yeah, do it. Because, you know, when you change the fluid, only less than 1/3 of the fluid comes out. The rest is still in the tranny, so you're just diluting it with clean fluid. Just make sure you use the original Honda fluid. They're very particular about that. But that's a very good idea. You never know how long it's going to last, and that'll make it last as long as possible. Adrian says, I have a mystery trouble code. I got a 97 Camry, and it's P1210. The code keeps coming back. I don't understand, because I Googled and it says it doesn't exist for that car. That's a code for injector pressure control. Yes, it is not a valid code for that car. It is a software error in the vehicle. Your code is coming up, right? But I'm sure your check engine light isn't coming on. If your check engine light comes on, you can't get your car inspected when it's emissions time. If you live in a state where they do emissions testing, it would fail. In this case, it would not fail because it's not going to turn the check engine light on. I'll give you a perfect example. The other day, a guy brought me a car, and it ran perfectly fine. He wanted me to say, just look at it. So I got out my fancy scan tool, and I found 14 separate codes. The check engine light wasn't on. And they were all squirrely little codes. It didn't mean really anything to the vehicle. The only thing that meant anything was it had codes for the tire pressure sensors because his tire monitoring system didn't work anymore, and he knows he doesn't want to buy all 4 sensors and spend a fortune. It had a code for each one of them, the battery being dead. He didn't want to spend the money, so he didn't care. Often, the software is a little bit on the squirrely side, and that's a 97 Camry. They only started OBD2 in 95, so there's a lot of screw-ups with the old ones, where you'll get stupid codes that don't mean anything. In your case, just ignore it. It means nothing. It is just a false code that pops up because it's old software. Never seen anybody come up with a fix. As long as your check engine light isn't on, though, it isn't going to bother anything. You just ignore the stupid thing. If it was a more modern car, they have things that code will mean something because they're much more integrated with all kinds of sensors and information. For instance, your Camry does not know what the fuel pressure is. Doesn't have such a system. The modern ones do. When I plug in my fancy scan tool in a modern Toyota, I can see the fuel pressure. I can see all kinds of stuff because there's information for that. Yours is so old it doesn't even have that kind of information built onto it. Chris Garza 7 says, I saw those 3D car mats you put in your matrix and I liked it. So I went to their website and I looked at the product. It said it was free. I checked and it said $0, just pay shipping. So no brainer. I purchased it and got a code. But then Thursday, they said the website was glitched, and I had to order it for $162. They had a cheaper price before. I think they should honor it. What do you think? Can you talk about it? Yeah, okay, 3D people. Honor that guy's price. That's BS. On the other hand, I've had things like that happen to me, and I've learned, obviously, when it says it costs nothing, you pay shipping, there's an error. When you see that, don't get involved. Come back later. Don't order it. Don't do things. I've been suckered into things where I saw something that I was a fool. I know that the tool is worth like $250, and the place says they have it for $69, right? So I thought, I'll order one, right? So I put my order in with all the information. Maybe they got a whole bunch of them. Maybe they're refurbished. I don't know, right? But $69 versus hundreds of dollars is a good discount. So I put my order in. And then what do I find? The next day I look. I used PayPal, right? PayPal sent money. It was a money sending. It wasn't for an order. It sent that $69 directly to some clown. It says, you sent this money to this guy. I tried to stop it. It was too late. And of course, I never got the product because it was a scam. Tried to buy something for $69 that I knew could be $300-400, right? The guy suckered me and the money went directly to him. PayPal wouldn't do anything about it. They said, well, you sent this guy money. I said, yeah, I ordered a product. It never came. He had the money sent directly to him, not for a service, just, oh, you sent this money to this guy, right? Whenever you do see something like that, walk away. In fairness, the 3D company, hey, you guys should give this guy the regular price that you had before, not the $162 price. You screwed up. You should honor what it was before. Obviously, your website's got problems. Hire some better people to do the website, too. You see something like that says $0 shipping free, don't get involved because it's either a scam, like I was scammed for the $69 tool, or it's just a mistake. And just wait. Don't order it then because something's amiss. That just shows something's amiss. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.